Donald Trump now says he is better than Lincoln and better than Washington as president. In his latest demented rant, you'd better praise Trump or he's going to be angry with you. This may be one of Donald Trump's wackiest and craziest claims yet. This took place outside the White House. Donald Trump suffering what can really only be described as a narcissistic collapse. He's no longer saying that he's up there with Lincoln and Washington as the best president ever. Now he says he gets angry when people don't say that he's better than Lincoln and better than Washington. If you say Trump is the third best president ever, he will be mad at you. He will be angry.
The great George Washington, all the way to, well, I think we have to rate him above me. So he's less than great, less than George. Somebody went up there, they say, you're the third best president in the United States. This was on television, third best. And they said, who are the first two? George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. And I got extremely angry at this man. You know, you can't, it's going to be tough to beat, Mr. Senator. It's going to be, John, it's going to be very tough to beat Washington and Lincoln, but we're going to give it a try, right? Hey, they didn't put out 8 wars, 9 coming, all right? We put out 8 wars, and the 9th is coming, believe it or not.
Lincoln gave his life to hold the United States together. Trump tried to rip the country apart because he lost an election and he couldn't admit it like a big boy. Lincoln freed the slaves. Trump freed George Santos. Okay, this is the contrast that we have. And Trump wants us to say, no, you're better. You're so good, sir. You know how normal people say, I'm proud of the work I've done. Trump hears a random guy at Mar-a-Lago say you're the third best president, and he's off the rails all of a sudden. He cannot separate personal validation from reality and is so desperate to be loved and to be liked and to be seen as the best. Imagine being so detached from reality that you're angry that people don't rank you above Abraham Lincoln. And in all seriousness, this is what happens when you live in this bubble of yes men and cult followers. You know, when we had Sarah Matthews on the show now a couple of times, she's a former deputy press secretary to Donald Trump during his first term. She worked under Kayleigh McEnany. I asked her, how is it that Trump ends up with these delusional beliefs? And she explained there is a bubble around the guy. He's kept insulated. He's fed information that's going to make him happy, that's going to please him. And so when you're around that for years, now it's been a decade, you start to think you actually belong next to Lincoln and Washington and your face should be up there on Mount Rushmore. And you can see Trump unraveling because that's not the recognition that he's getting. He's not trying to lead anymore. Trump is now trying to convince himself. And this is not how presidents talk. Now, there's another aspect to this that I do think is relevant to mention and important to talk about when it comes to Donald Trump and his rankings. One of the areas that is really kind of an intangible with how presidents have done or how presidents are seen retrospectively is how the United States is seen around the world and the relationships that we have or don't have. And even though Donald Trump spent, years telling us while Biden was president, we're not respected under Biden, we're going to be respected when I become president again. We are going to see that the world is moving away from the United States in ways that it never did under Joe Biden. And if we say, well, let's evaluate it based on the level of respect for the office of the presidency based on global surveys, it's in the toilet. Let's evaluate it based on the motivation that other countries have to be allied with the United States. They don't seem concerned. I mean, just earlier in the show, we talked about Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney saying, hey, you know, the decades of getting closer and closer to the United States, that's over. It's over. It doesn't make sense anymore. And you can say a lot of things about Joe Biden. You could say he didn't accomplish enough. He shouldn't have run for re-election. He failed to secure the student loan debt relief that we maybe hoped that he would secure. But Biden was respected around the world as an ambassador to of the United States, as an advocate for the United States. And the United States was part of global decisions and discussions under Biden. Under Trump, it's the opposite. And we saw that during his first term, and we're seeing it now. So Donald Trump is clearly suffering a narcissistic collapse. As Donald Trump approaches 80 years old, and he realizes that his time on this earth and his time on in the Oval Office is limited, he's increasingly concerned with legacy. And this is what's leading him to lash out and to do things that will be harder to reverse. Certainly the demolishing and building of a ballroom at the White House is part of it. He wants things that won't be reversed so his legacy can live on. But the greatest legacy of Trump so far is that he has distanced us. He has alienated us from our historical and typical allies. And he's also doing it while threatening a whole bunch of different people. And I want to dig into that a little bit. Every time you Google your name, you will probably find dozens of sites that expose your personal information. This can include phone number, home address, family details. It's just sitting there waiting to be scraped or abused. Incogni is a privacy service. They go after these sites on your behalf. They contact the data brokers. They demand your data be removed, which the brokers are legally required to do. Incogni will automatically remove your information from hundreds of the biggest and most notorious data broker sites, but you're not just limited to those. You can use Incogni's custom removal if you find your info on a website outside of Incogni's default list. The team at Incogni will work to get that information removed. This is how you protect yourself and your family from identity theft, financial scams, harassment, even AI-powered profiling by ad companies. And Incogni's data removal process is the only one verified independently by Deloitte. This gives them a unique level of credibility. Try Incogni risk-free and get 60% off when you go to incogni.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman. The link is in the description.